Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, my beautiful people? Welcome in on a wonderful Wednesday evening here on the Film Guy Network. We're about halfway through you guys' work week, all right? You guys are halfway through your work week. You got 2 more. That's about it, all right? So finish strong. We're going to finish strong here halfway through our work week as we have 4 more shows, 2 more local hours here to talk about this matchup between Georgia and Tennessee. But I got to be honest with you guys. I was talking with my grandfather today, and he gave me a piece of wisdom. And when something impacts my life, you guys know the rule. We got to bring it to you. Quote, we were talking about chasing dreams, right? We're talking about what it requires to run down some of the aspirations that we have in this life, whether it be, me personally or even him in his wise old age. Shouts out to my doodad. He says, quote, "A man can succeed at almost anything for which he has unlimited enthusiasm." I think that is known and present around here. If anything, I'm going to give you that juice. So I got another little thing to give you today, and that's that defense of what to know, what to expect, if you will, for this Tennessee defense. They are revamped, if you will. Okay, if you listen to anybody talking about Tennessee football this year, what will they tell you? They will tell you that they are running the football really, really well, and they will tell you that this is a defense that is getting after the quarterback and creating havoc, all right? But let's talk about who they are, what their structure is, what they are, right? They're a 4-2-5 defense. I watched 2 football games. I watched them against Alabama, and I watched them against Missouri. They are a cover 3 base football team that will throw a little bit of change up with man-to-man coverage. But most importantly, they are extremely old. We talk about this every single week. Shouts out to the NCAA and the Super Seniors and the COVID Seniors, all right? The NCAA allowing all of these additional years of eligibility has just created a backlog to where you have SEC defenses that look like this and that look like Missouri. 10 seniors on this roster, they are on this starting unit rather, and a bunch more in the 2 deep. The only real 2 underclassmen, or 3 I should say, Anthony Josephs, Elijah Herring, and James Pierce. Those 3 sophomores, they get some reps, they get some burn. Outside of that, you're looking at 4th and 5th year guys, okay? So these are guys not only that have played a lot of football, but these are football players that have played a lot of football against the University of Georgia. They will have a safety in the box, all right? Whether they're a man football team on Saturday or whether they're a cover 3 football team, the additional safety, most likely number 2, will be hanging out and hovering around the box as well as number 5, okay? So they like to stack it up and crowd that box. Very rarely is the middle of the field open, okay, post-snap. It might look like that pre-snap. It might look like they have 2 safeties back there, but as soon as the post-snap happens, as soon as the ball is snapped, a safety is rolling into the box and 1 safety is rolling into the middle of the field. So be wary of that on Saturday. But here's the deal. With a really, really old football team, okay, and a really, really experienced defensive football team, you have to be able to expect a football team that's going to do a bunch of things or be able to disguise really, really well. I talked about it. They're a cover 3 team that can play some man. Last year, they were a man blitz football team, kind of lived and died by it. It's why they were almost dead last in explosives on the defensive side of the football, while also being one of the best teams in the nation on the offensive side of the football in the very same category. They're trying to balance it a little bit this year with being aggressive, getting after you, while also playing some zone coverage in and behind that and trying to keep everything up underneath them. So when these change-ups happen, when they show man and they play zone, or they show zone and they play man post-snap, understand that their veteran presence, their age is going to allow them to disguise things so much better than a young defensive core might be able to. So you got to be ready for the changeup that they're going to throw at you defensively. I will tell you this, though. As much as they're trying to be a veteran defense, as much as they're trying to throw changeups and, hey, we're playing zone for a couple snaps, boom, man coverage, playing man, couple snaps, boom, zone coverage. As good as they are at disguising it, sometimes they will bust, okay? Sometimes they think they're in man when they're actually in zone. Sometimes they're in zone when they're actually in man. Those types of things can lead to explosives down the field. Now, some of them they've been protected against because they've been able to get pressure on the quarterback. We'll talk about that in here in a little bit. But what I'm trying to explain to you is you're going to have one look pre-snap and definitely another look post-snap against this football team. I will also tell you the most of the man pressures this year when they play man coverage. You guys know I can see y'all, right? It's hella distracting me all over giggling and laughing. What's going on?
Nothing, chat.
Chat?
Chat, yeah.
Chat's out here wilding. Shouts out to the chat. But anyways, when they are a mixed coverage football team, I can promise you right now, when you're in plus territory, their tendency on third, medium, third, and long is to play man, cover one across the board, and bring 5, maybe 6. They're going to man pressure you on third and long from what I've seen off of tape. So just be ready to do that, or be ready to handle that. I'll be honest, talking a little bit about player evaluations. Elijah Herring, the sophomore linebacker that's playing for them, number 44, I think he's going to be a really good football player. But I think his top end speed's like very questionable. All right, Missouri put him in some bad spots. He took some bad angles. I think the top end speed on this entire football team's a little bit questionable, to be honest with you. As old as they are, as big as they are, I mean, corners 6'1", 6'2", the team speed's not elite. All right, it's not on the top end of what we would consider fast SEC football teams. And you could tell off that Missouri tape, they were taking a lot of bad angles in that football game because of this lack of team speed, in my opinion. You would think, hey, we're not so fast, we take better angles. Sometimes when teams are that much faster than you, they outrun your angles anyways. This is a football team, ladies and gentlemen, very akin to Ohio State in their heyday with their defensive line. They're going to let guys get upfield. All right, they're going to let guys get off the football and play with no weary or no worry or no nothing. All right, this is a havoc-based defense. This is not a gap control-based defense. All right, what is the difference? Georgia plays gap control-based defense. What you will not see is Nazir Stackhouse 3 yards deep into the backfield running for like a banshee bat out of hell. In fact, what you will see is Nazir Stackhouse holding 2 offensive linemen at the line of scrimmage, okay, and letting linebackers run and close all of the gaps that seemingly aren't necessarily there all the time because defensive linemen are holding bodies, all right? Tennessee, on the other hand, we're trying to do this. We're trying to dart, slash, cut into your backfield and hope we can create some type of havoc play. I personally think it makes them rather susceptible to what we call the counter play. We talked about it last night on the channel. Georgia hasn't been necessarily a counter football team this year. Haven't been running it a ton. It's been in the playbook. Don't get me wrong, but it's not their staple. Last year it was. Well, last year you had Warren McClendon and you had Broderick Jones, 2 extremely athletic tackles. I'm not saying that's not what Amarius Mims, Xavier Truss, or Ernest Green are, but hey, you guys are just as smart as I am. You can see the difference between those body types, right? It hasn't been something that you guys have run a ton this year, but if they're going to get upfield and violently upfield, then it might be something that you go to at some point in this football game. Back to the players discussion, James Pierce, number 27, he is an elite pass rusher. Do not get me wrong. I think he can be pushed around in the run game. I would hunt this guy in the run game. I would say Amarius Mims is going to block that guy 9 yards off the point, and we're going to run right at that. That's probably what I would start with when James Pierce is on the field, but he doesn't necessarily – he's a kind of a spot player from what I've seen on tape. He's not technically their one, and that's on to another discussion. They're extremely deep in their front four. They're going to play 3 deep, all right? They're going to play 3 units of defensive linemen, and they're going to try to stay relatively fresh. Talking about more players in general, I like number 6, Aaron Beasley, the linebacker. He's been playing really, really good football for a long time in this conference. Number 10, I don't know his name, gentlemen, but he is a fire hydrant. He is 6'2", listed at 340 pounds. I'm personally, eyeball scouting him on tape, going to say he's a flat 6'1", and he's a rotund 360. I mean, he is the definition of a squat plug in that, or a spark plug in the middle of that defense. He is very, very thick and hard to move. My notes right here say he's a flat load. I like number 55 as well. He's a transfer, I believe, from Arizona State. Barton Scott, something like that. He's athletic as hell at 6'3", 300 pounds. Outside of that, they got some guys that can get after the quarterback, but I don't know if it's necessarily like an elite, front. I shouldn't say that. They got a couple of NFL football players. They're playing really, really well, and they're playing aggressively right now, and you should expect to see that Saturday afternoon inside of Neyland Stadium. Hey, welcome in. We got a great show for you guys tonight. Carrying over on those defensive notes from Tennessee, I'm going to be giving you my keys to the win on the offensive side of the football. We'll give you the keys to the defensive side of the football tomorrow. We're going to talk about what the numbers say in this matchup. We talked a little bit about it last night, but I think we breezed over it just a little bit too much in terms of the pass and run splits going on right now at the University of Georgia. We're going to give them 3 a little bit later today. And, of course, because we can't get enough analysis, we're going to have to take a quick look at Alabama because I'm not going to get beat to the punch like I saw today. I saw some other beats or some other people getting to the Alabama takes already. So not going to have that happen on my watch. We're gonna give some opinions on that one. How we doing today, boys?
Good, man. What about you?
I cannot complain. Go ahead and riff. Give me your thoughts so far on, just give me something. I got to cool off for a second.
So I guess the first question I would ask is, given that Tennessee has a defensive line that likes to get upfield a lot, what kind of depth chart do you think the O-line goes with today or not today, but Saturday?
Depth chart on Saturday?
Yeah.
I think they rotate the same group and keep everybody fresh like they did last week for sure.
So you think they go with that similar rotation?
Yes.
Okay.
Similar rotation.
Because the way I thought was what they did Ole Miss was to kind of give Xavier Truss that start just because he was a senior.
Yeah.
So.
I think this Tennessee defense is interesting. They're actually really, really good at home. I noticed that they're only allowing 12 points per game in Neyland Stadium. Not exactly sure what the opponents have looked like at that stadium this year, so that would be interesting to look at. But also notice that they are heavily penalized as well at home, which is really, really weird. At home, they're averaging 9 penalties per game at home this season.
Why?
No idea. They're a heavily penalized team in general, but 9 penalties per game at home.
Dude, I don't know what it was. I got like the caffeine sweats or something. Definitely wasn't the meat sweats. Maybe that was what it was. Caffeine on an empty stomach. But yeah, it just got some serious body heat going on right there. What's up? How you guys doing today? Y'all doing great?
Just
Good,
trying
man.
to
What
close
about
out
you?
this semester, man. That's
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We do have a great one for you. I want to make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, and review. Also want to take a quick moment to give a shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Okay, if you run over to Prize Picks today and use promo code Brooks, you will get a 100% deposit match over there. What does that mean? You put up to $100, you will ultimately get $100 back immediately over there. $100 matched immediately over there on Prize Picks, but only, of course, if you are a new user and you use that promo code Brooks. I also want to give a quick shout out to our friends at the Athletic Collection. All these dope and fine posters you see laying around and hanging around the studio today, you can purchase over there on the Athletic Collection. The link is in the description of this video. They are great to us, man. All of our sponsors, I want to give a quick shout out to those guys and showing some love to them. They've done a tremendous job this season of allowing us to continue to produce all this lovely, lovely content that you guys seem to like so much. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate and review. And also want to take a quick moment to tell you, all right, I know a lot of y'all, based off the numbers, you're watching us on video, and also based off the numbers, it's impossible to expect that y'all are going to watch all of this, all right? And it's also impossible to not believe that you're not also listening to some podcast, okay? So if you're in the car and you don't want to watch us, you can listen to us, okay? Pick us up on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, wherever you find your podcast. We will find you immediately, okay? I think we got the sound audio issues figured out. I think that was just me walking over there with a little wardrobe change. So I think we're good on that end. Yeah, welcome in to tonight's show. Let's get after it. I got some keys to the big day, okay? Keys to a big day offensively. Let's rattle them off right now. We talked about how they're going to be a good disguised football team, probably the best you've played this year with how old they are and how cohesive the unit is as a whole. So what do you have to do if a team's playing a bunch of mixed looks or disguising coverage really well? Well, you have to be able to decipher the coverage, right? You have to be able to look in front of you pre-snap, see what they're showing, and then respond to what's happening post-snap. Now, the combination of Carson Beck's brain and Mike Bobo's ability to use motion this year has kind of solved any pre-snap issues that you have in terms of, hey, what are they running? What is the defense doing to us? Most of the motion, most of the ability to use his intellect has kind of solved all those things, like I'm saying, for you for this offense. Now, when you go on the road, what is something that we've talked about over and over again with the offensive game plan? What do you have to do to it? You have to simplify it. You have to simplify the offensive game plan when you go on the road to these football games. What does that mean? Well, it means you probably can't be out here running a bunch of pre-snap motion like you standardly do. You might be able to give a tear motion or a jet motion, all right, but we can't be flip-flopping. We can't be scattering. We can't be lining up in one formation and bumping to another. That stuff causes too much confusion. That stuff takes too much time at the line of scrimmage. So that stuff, I'm not going to say has to be removed from the game plan, but again, the game plan has to be simplified. So that means the processing, right? The processing ability of Carson Beck will have to be the important part. And here's the thing that I know about his processor, right? Because we've heard Kirby talk about his recall. If I hear a coach compliment your recall, meaning every time you come off the field, you can recite exactly what you saw, Well, if your recall is really good, then your processor is probably really, really good, right? So we know the recall is great. Saturday is a great opportunity to see if the processor is as elite as the recaller, right? I know you can tell me what you saw. Can you respond in the moment to what you're seeing? Again, the good news for this football team against maybe a team that might run a bunch of zone or might run a bunch of man and also does a really, really good job of disguising it, that would cause disruption of timing issues for an offense that's based off of, hey, option routes or concept routes, right? Which is a Tennessee offense to a T, where their wide receivers might run this against man coverage. They might run this against zone coverage. That's not exactly what's going on at Georgia. They kind of have plays to call versus man, plays to call versus zone, not necessarily option routes or conversion routes. That kind of stuff will allow football players to play more on the same page rather, on road trips like this. Let's continue to go on. I told you, they're going to be a man and a zone football team, in my opinion, on Saturday, and they're going to pressure you when they play man. And we all know, we've all studied this offense, okay, this Georgia offense. You guys, as listeners, have been well educated on what this offense does against particularly cover 3 football teams. They destroy them. They have always destroyed them. They've been really, really efficient against zone football teams, and they've been able to move the football consistently against those football teams. But something tells me, like I'm telling you, not only based off the tape, but based off this matchup, that Tennessee and Willie Martinez are not just going to be able to sit in that type of defense. They're not going to be able to sit in zone and just say, all right, they're going to bleed me to death. You're going to have to be able to mix it up and play a little man coverage. When that happens for Georgia, okay, when they play man and they pressure you, you have got to pick it up and you got to throw it up, all right? The only way to get them to just say, hey, we're not playing man coverage today, is to destroy them. All right, destroy them when they play man coverage. Absolutely hit them for massive, massive explosives, whether that be to lad on a double move, whether that be figuring out a way if they're daring enough to play Brock Bowers without safety help. Whatever it is, if they get into man coverage, pick up the pressure that's inevitably coming with it. All right, they don't play man and sit back. All right, it's not like Georgia where they'll rush 4, drop the 2 linebackers into the middle of the field, causing havoc, and then play man coverage everywhere else. No, this will be man coverage, pressure from the box. All right, and you're gonna have to pick it up and take shots downfield. I think you force them into conceding yardage by playing zone coverage, by destroying them every single time they play man coverage. I think you also have to survive the surge. And we talk about this on road trips every single time it comes up. This defense, I told you, they get upfield, they play aggressive. The defensive front is really, really physical in that nature, or at least they appear physical in that nature because they have the advantage of, I'm allowed to get upfield. I'm not going to be punished for running past the point. So if that's going to be the case, as an offensive line, we can't be catching on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, right? We can't go out on the first snap and try to feel our way through this football game. You'll get punched in the mouth really, really quickly. I think you're going to get punched in the mouth anyways because that's the way this football team plays. They always start relatively good and then they taper off, all right? So survive whatever surge is available. And this is perhaps the most important key, gentlemen. This is the most important key to beating not just Tennessee, not scoring a bunch just against Tennessee, but really against any air raid, up-tempo offense. Be prepared for the death march. Be ready to walk it on their ass. 12 plays, 85 yards, 6.5 minutes. All right, and when does that need to happen, you ask? Well, it needs to happen after 3 and out. You score, you stack another 3 and out. Now you death march their ass. Every single up-tempo, spread, air raid offense are 2 consecutive 3 and outs from a death trap. Every single time. That's all it takes. Boom, boom. They got off the field in 6 plays offensively, took 35 seconds off the entire game clock in those 2 drives, and shit, now their defense has been on the field for 14 minutes. That right there will absolutely kill this University of Tennessee defense. Boys, thoughts on the keys to the win? Or keys to the offensive success, I should say.
I think that last point is exactly why I don't know if we're going to see Georgia put up a whole bunch of points like we have seen them do against Ole Miss last week, because against a team like Tennessee you having the ball is your best asset of you being able to just kind of methodically march your way down the field, which Georgia is prone to do. I think that's one strength of their offense is that they can score in a multitude of ways. I think they've kind of expanded upon their explosive passing game, and the running game was pretty explosive last week as well. So them being able to just kind of march the field, eat some clock a little bit, I think that's a huge asset for them.
Yeah, I think as well that just being able to hold on to the ball long enough, these offenses don't.
Yeah.
I guess you are.
It might have been the walking pad today. I just think I'm hot. Anyways, it happens every once in a while.
But yeah, no, just holding onto the ball and forcing this defense to stay on the field as long as you can is kind of what I think is going to be your easiest route to this victory. Not that you don't have only one, but
Plus, I think if you, on offense, like if you have a drive like that, that's not only an offensive killer for Tennessee and a defensive killer, it's a crowd killer. If you you do that on offense and you hold the ball for 7 minutes and you go down the field and put up 7 points,
they're going to be hoarse.
Exactly, and they're going to be out of it. They're just going to be like, dang, bro, like we ain't impacting this game at all. Like there's no juice in that stadium at that point.
All right, so there was the keys to the offensive success. I think there's some real juicy nuggets there, particularly if you're a football mind. If you're a football mind, there was some good stuff right there, in my opinion. All right, our friends at Prize Picks, they have released the over-unders for this football game. They have released the player props for this football game. I don't even want to guess them this week because I don't have any, like, funny ones that I normally have. Who's the guy they always compare Josh Heupel to in the Georgia space? The dude from Pawn Stars, Chumley. How many Chumley tweets do you think we see on Saturday? Over under 1,000.
Oh, you've probably already seen 300.
Yeah.
It's either Chumley or the King of the Hill kid.
That's a good one.
Yeah. When he grows his beard out, he's more Chumley. When he's fresh, clean shaven, he's nice and King of the Hill guy. One thing, one of the most classic press conferences I've watched this year, because I got more into watching press conferences this year of other coaches, not just Kirby, was the press conference of his after the Florida loss. Dude, he looks like he grew a 5 o'clock shadow in the second half of that football game. It's like, I know you did not shave today, so you grew that today, or maybe you just didn't shave today, which is an interesting question or an interesting thought process. And then the whole time he's chewing gum. He's chewing gum the entire press conference. And after that, I was kind of like, man. Ooh, come on, man. It's a bad look after almost like a 25-point loss. Wasn't it like a 21-point loss?
It was 29 to 16 was the final, I believe.
So 15-point loss. I meant 13-point loss.
There you go.
My math, don't be mathing. All right, give me these player props. Let's get rattling through them one by one, and we'll take them right now.
Bet you can guess what Carson Beck's number is.
285.5.
287.5. It's been pretty consistent.
They bumped him 2. That's gonna be a tough one right there to play. All right, 287.5 against a man zone football team, against a football team that do we think is going to make this a close football game? Do we think Tennessee's going to score and make Georgia score?
They have the
I don't think they're
capability
going to
to
score
do it.
very many points.
Yeah. I think this is if Tennessee has the ball, they might check with me and sit on it. I think it's maybe like a 28-14 football game, 28-17 football game, 31-17 football game maybe is what we're thinking.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe take the under on that. But I think there's so much yardage out there. I think there's so much yardage out there when you're going to play this much zone coverage.
They are 70th in passing defense this season, so not exactly great on that matchup end.
But again, it's totally different than what they were last year. Last year they were 127th during this matchup, I believe.
They were 127th in every category.
Yeah. I also think it depends on how successful you are in the run game, because if you have Dejon Edwards and Kendall Milton giving you 75 yards each, I don't think Carson Beck's going to throw it that many times.
Yeah,
so.
if you get another performance from Dejon and Kendall like you had last week, then for sure I would hit the under on that one.
All right, I'm going to write Carson 287.5 right here down, and we're just going to circle it because we don't know yet.
Okay. Joe Milton is listed at 210.5.
Ooh. Golly, Price Picks has gotten so much better at this. Give me another one. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
That's
I think
tough,
this
isn't it?
one's pretty easy.
That's basically what he's been doing all year. I guess that's the whole point of these lines.
I don't want to say easy. I shouldn't say easy, but I thought this one was intriguing. Jalen Wright, 53.5 rushing yards.
Jalen Wright, 53.5.
I would take it.
I'm taking the over.
I would too.
That's 3 runs.
If he doesn't have more than 53 rushing yards, then Tennessee might not score more than 10 points in this football game, in my opinion.
All right, so we're taking the over on Jalen Wright. It's the only lock we have so far, 53.5. We all like that one. What else we got?
Dejon Edwards, 75.5.
Now, much more his type of football game. When I told you they're gonna get upfield, and when defensive linemen get upfield, they tend to be on different levels. And when defensive linemen are on different levels, he tends to eat. So for that reason, I'm gonna take the over, 75.5 on Dejon.
All right.
All right, we'll get some receiving yardage here. Lad McConkey, 66.5.
Just keep taking the over, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
until he
Pounding over.
proves you otherwise. I mean, he's been wide receiver 1 since he came back.
I
so.
see a 75-yard, 85-yard double move on Saturday just to kind of. They haven't done that in a while. You know, like against Ohio State, they did it. Arian Smith, and then they did it with Kenny McIntosh, like boom, boom, back-to-back possessions. Maybe they haven't necessarily felt the need to do it or felt like they've been forced to do so. But I guarantee you, Bobo's got a guaranteed 85-yarder somewhere in the bag. He's got something cooking. So I like the over on that. You said 66.5 on Lad. We're going to go over there. So that's 3 we got. Can we get 2 more locks that we love?
No Ra Thomas this week, which is interesting. Kind of a bummer because he's been like one play lock every time in the first half.
Probably why they took him off.
Probably. Dom Lovett, 53.5.
I would stay away from
staying
Don
away.
Love.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
like
just a player that's kind of not necessarily up and down, but you just never know what kind of football game is going to be for him. Brock Bowers, 55.5.
Over. I think we get a Brock game. I think we get 8 for 88.
8 for 88.
Wow.
We get 8 for 88.
I mean, he definitely showed he's 100% and he's capable of doing.
Said 55.5.
55.5.
That's cooked. Give me that. What were you going to say?
No, I was just saying, I think he's definitely shown that he's capable of having those games. Now, coming into last week was kind of like, how much are they going to use him? So, if they use him at full capacity, he should go over 88 yards.
It was interesting to hear him yesterday and we kind of buzzed over this on presser availabilities, but when he was asked about the first catch he had where he had to kind of like cut immediately as soon as he got the ball, he said, yeah, that kind of hurt. And somebody followed up, was like, it hurt? Like, you're still hurting? And he was like, I mean, yeah. It's uncomfortable is what he said. It's uncomfortable. So I'm just wondering, like, uncomfortable to me is like, you know, I got to readjust. My seat doesn't necessarily feel normal or, you know, I got something going on, something rubbing my neck on my shirt line. That's uncomfortable. Ankle pain is not uncomfortable. It hurts.
Yeah.
So it's just a different dude, man. Even in the way he talks about his injuries and the way that they hurt.
That's interesting. That makes me kind of think that maybe you don't see as much of him this week. I don't know.
Nah, I mean, like I said, the doctor told him he was going to be uncomfortable. Okay. It's gonna be sore. It's gonna.
Yeah, I mean, you got your ankle drilled into almost 30 days ago.
And that's what I was gonna say. I've also heard, and this isn't from this specific occasion, but it's from the history of this injuries. When they drill those holes into your ankle, I'm not gonna do it. When they drill those holes into your ankle, you got those 2 screws sitting in your ankle bones. And whenever someone kind of rubs over those plates and rubs over those bones, it feels really, really uncomfortable. It's like a dull, sharp pain.
Yeah, I know.
Dull and sharp are their antonyms, but you get what I'm saying. It's sharp at first, and then it's dull for a little while.
Like an achy pain.
Yeah, very much so. So it's just interesting.
Very interesting.
Do you have any other props?
I mean, there's some more Tennessee ones.
We've
if
only
you're
got
interested.
4. We've only picked 4 right
All
now.
right, we
so.
got Squirrel White, 55.5.
Four's a good lock.
No, we need 5 for that 25x play.
No.
That's what we need.
That's how they get you.
Well, I mean, it's just as hard to hit. I mean, it's not just as hard, but it's pretty damn hard to hit 4. You might as well play 5. Actually, with that thought process, last week I'd have had $500 or $400 sitting in my account.
There you go. That's how they get you, man.
Dagummit, Oscar dealt.
But
But anyways,
Squirrel White, 55.5.
I like that.
Ramel Keaton, 51.5. Joe Milton, 22.5 rushing yards.
Under. I like that. 22.5. Hell, Jackson Dart almost got screwed on that one last week because of sacks. All right, there's our lock. All right, so we're going to go who's JW?
Jalen Wright.
All right, we're going to go Jalen Wright, 53.5, over. We're going to go Dejon Edwards, 75.5, over. We're going to go Lad McConkey, 66.5, over. We're going to go Brock Bowers, 55.5, over. And we're going to go Joe Milton, 22.5 rushing yards, under. Okay, so 4 overs and an undies. Love it. Love it. Shouts out to Prize Picks. You can get in on that action today using promo code Brooks, 100% deposit match. All right, boys. We got half of a show left here. All right. And I think it's time. To give Mike Bobo his flowers.
It's been time.
It's been time.
It's been time. But he was one of 65 coaches to be awarded a nominee for the Broyles Awards list. I didn't realize till today that it was indeed that long. I mean, that list was like 45 coaches on there.
Yeah, you typically like the awards finalist list is like, you might get 10 players for the Nagurski and you might have 10 quarterbacks for the Davey O'Brien Award and whatnot.
Not this one.
Not this one. When you said like over 50, I was like, what the heck? I was like, why are we even having a finalist list then?
Yeah, that's 65. Is that the official number?
You're basically taking half of FBS coaches or half of FBS schools.
How do you quantify that? Like, who's winning right now? All right, just take half the coordinators.
Basically.
Yeah. Who's been really successful in one area of football?
But no, Bobo's averaging 40.6 points per game. It's the second highest total since, you guessed it, the last time he was the offensive coordinator at the University of Georgia.
Wait, you mean he's averaging more than Todd Monken?
Well, no, he's a half a point short of last year's metric, but last year was the highest points at 41.4.
Something like
41 something or 41 something. They're at 40.6 right now. It's the highest since Bobo was here last time, outside of last year. That makes any sense at all.
I mean, still, to be putting up those kind of numbers in your first year as the OC, when you got this guy got the Stetson Bennett treatment coming into the season.
He did, and he's overcome a lot as an offensive coordinator this year. Ladd McConkey out the first 5 weeks, essentially.
You lost a first-round right tackle.
First-round right tackle midway through the season.
Brock
you had
Bowers.
to replace two NFL tackles from last year. Brock Bowers obviously goes out at some point this year.
Running back room was decimated.
The running back room was dog water.
Quarterback had a first-year starter.
Yeah, quarterback making a first.
Dang. That's a lot to overcome.
Yeah.
And my man's out here balling. So it was funny. I mean, you would think like, it's got to be done now, all the shit talking about Bobo. No, we had it in the chat. Early.
First comment.
Yeah, first comment was we're not giving flowers until he calls a good game and a tight one in the fourth
Make
quarter.
some clutch play calls.
Yeah, make some clutch play calls, like somehow magically getting Brock Bowers open in the fourth quarter for like a 40-yard touchdown. If he could manage to do that on the road in an SEC, conference game, particularly when they need it.
Yeah,
like
with the game on the line as
Yeah,
well.
with like a fourth quarter coming from behind. If he could do that, maybe we'd give him his flowers. Has he done that?
I don't know. It sounds really familiar for some reason. Like I almost feel like I was there witnessing it happening this year, but I can't quite put my finger on it for some reason.
Yeah, I don't think it happened.
Yeah, I think they did it at Auburn.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the
they
Auburn
did do it
game.
against
That's
Auburn.
right.
Like
They
third
did
game
it
of the
against-
season, right? Something like that.
First road game.
Yeah.
Yeah, first big-time road game. Yeah.
Interesting.
Really, the only road game you've had this season.
Yeah. That'll be fun. We saw that comment from Tennessee fans this week about how Georgia will play in their first real stadium this weekend. I don't know.
I mean, it's not a completely wrong statement.
It's not. 88,000 at Jordan Hare is a little bit different than 103,000 in Neyland.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's going to be one of the toughest environments a Kirby Smart team's ever played in.
Man, what it could have been though.
Yeah,
This could have been College game day. Pat McAfee could have been jumping into rivers.
You think they would have been back to back?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they did. They did in 2021, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think if Tennessee were still one loss right now, they probably wouldn't have come to last week to Missouri.
Yeah,
They'd
you're
have just
right.
waited to
If
go
they
to
knew that this was going to
Knoxville.
decide the East, but then again, like in this situation, but still, yeah, for sure. I think you're right.
All right. Do we want to talk about what the numbers say about this matchup?
Yeah, I got some numbers for
All right,
you.
let's do it. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate and reviewing, all that good stuff.
All righty. To start things off on the road this season, Georgia is averaging 35.7 points per game. That's the 10th best in the country amongst all teams on road games.
Bro, you're wherever you're getting stats is elite. Because unless you're running down home road splits by yourself for everybody.
No,
No.
not doing that.
Yeah. So shouts out to the stat.
Yeah, I
company.
finally found a good source, and it gives me everything and anything I need. It's clutch.
A good plug's important in this life.
Mhm.
A good consistent plug.
Oh, no doubt.
Don't need inconsistencies with the plug. You need the plug to show up at the time they say they're going to be there and deliver those stats.
For sure. On top of that, they're averaging 486 yards of offense on the road. That's sixth best in the country. Tennessee at home is averaging 39 points per game. That's 22nd in the country. And 424 yards of total offense, which is 27th. So pretty good. Not obviously top end of the country for both of those categories. Any comments on that so far?
Just about how well Georgia's offense travels.
Yeah.
No, I think it checks out. When you got good football players that can execute without all the window dressing, It shouldn't be any different. That's the funny thing that Kirby said this week, and only he can really say this. There's no difference to winning on the road and at home, is what he said. The recipe to success is still the same. You have to control the line of scrimmage. You have to protect the football. You got to block and tackle, all that stuff. I would argue it makes it way harder on the road to do all of those things, though.
I'm guessing they're counting the Georgia-Florida game as a road game.
Yeah, it's road and neutral site games.
Okay.
Good.
So
So I was going to say,
that is included. I should have clarified that, but yes, those numbers are included for these stats when it comes to Georgia on the road. I already hit on this one, but I'll mention it again. Tennessee is allowing 228 passing yards per game. That does rank 70th in the country. And also, this is not the explosive Tennessee offense that you remember from last year. We've kind of hit on that quite a bit, but just to kind of put some more context around it, Tennessee ranks 83rd for 20-plus yard plays this season. Georgia has 21 more 20-plus yard plays this season than Tennessee does.
20?
21.
Wow.
Tennessee has 41. Georgia has 62.
And they've allowed probably similar ones.
Yeah, they're not horrible defensively allowing explosives, but it's not great either.
And I would imagine, do you have the run to pass, explosive
I
rates?
don't have that one. I do know that.
I know they lead the country in explosive runs.
I can tell you that Carson Beck is like top 10 in every explosive passing stat category.
Yeah, that checks out.
that's insane.
So
I didn't know that it was going to be like that. I thought it was always going to be high efficiency. I didn't know he was going to lead country in explosive rates, despite the fact that everybody tells me he can't hit deep balls.
I actually mentioned that prior to the season because when I was looking back at it, when Aaron Murray was in college, Aaron Murray was like top 2 in every passing explosive stat category with Bobo, and Georgia was one of the most explosive offenses, both passing and defense. It wasn't just because they had Todd Gurley and Nick Chubb and all those guys. He was doing it in the air quite a bit as well. And then this is just an interesting one that I found about Carson Beck this year. He has the most passing yards in the third quarter of the season in the entire country. He has 1,046 passing yards in the third quarter this year.
That's well over
That's
a
weird.
third of his production,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Burrow is just cooking out of the gate in the second half.
Not playing a lot of fourths,
No.
right?
More than we expected, honestly.
Yeah.
But not actually putting the ball in the air in the fourth quarter.
I mean, heck, last week was a game where he didn't play in the fourth quarter.
Kentucky didn't play much in the fourth
No.
quarter.
Florida.
No, he played in the fourth.
He played a
quarter
little
against
bit in
Florida.
the fourth, but
He
he didn't.
handed the ball off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right there. Typical, Georgia. It wasn't as bad as last year. Last year I felt like Stetson was out at halftime sometimes.
Yes.
So there it is. Hey, I want to take a quick moment to give some love to the super subs in the chat right now. Our guy Chris Chafin gave us $50, so that's five free subs, and then our boy Rudy added a 6th on top. Those are getting picked up on pretty quickly in the email inboxes. All of the ones from previous shows are taken, so we're going to start anew today with a fresh 6. So if you're listening to me today, I'm probably backlogged because I got some people that already missed out on the ones that we've been giving away. So y'all been on a little heater lately in terms of the super subs. So we're going to keep giving those subscriptions out to patreon.com/Brooks Austin. If you're new to this platform, make sure you hit thumbs up, like, subscribe, rate, and review. And if you're that person that's like, hey, this is normally the guy that does a lot of film stuff. We do a lot of film stuff. Most of it, though, nowadays is behind a paywall over on patreon.com/Brooks Austin, where we will be uploading a defensive film study tomorrow once I get that sucker recorded. Hey, little boys, let's give them 3. 3 things you want to see on Saturday. I'll start first. Actually, you know what?
I was about to say,
Thank you.
Come on, Curb.
Thanks, guys.
Come on, Curb.
I
Give me what you got.
All right, first one I have. I want to see Georgia start fast. This is going to be a team that, like you said, comes out the gate pretty heavy. You also need to subdue this crowd. It's going to be the most hectic environment you've been in all season, maybe ever under Kirby Smart. Start fast, take the crowd out of it, take Tennessee out of it. That's a need. Next, I want to see Carson Beck stay clean. This defense gets on it. Yeah, see, how's it feel?
You got me.
How's it feel?
It doesn't feel good.
Exactly.
Now I
you're
got
scrambling.
to freelance.
But yeah, no, Carson Beck needs to stay upright this game. They've done a good job of doing that, but this Tennessee defense gets after the quarterback, and when you get after the quarterback, that's usually when you cause mistakes, and turnovers are going to be big in this game if they can get them. So, and then third one, I want to see the defense stonewall their run game. This Tennessee offense is really
bricked up.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
You're gonna build a wall.
yeah, that.
Brick it up. I mean, come on, dude. I don't know why you went there.
There you go. But no, this Tennessee offense is really predicated on being able to run the ball to pass it. If you can't run the ball, they're not going to be able to do anything. A lot of 3 and outs, a lot of forcing Joe Milton to extend the drives, which I don't think Tennessee even believes they can do that. So if you can stop the run, I think you have a really good chance of winning this game.
Hey, that boy Christian Kirby, give him 3. What What do you got? I'll go last.
Oh, okay. I want to see Kendall Milton just keep eating so badly. Not only just because
See, it's
not
tough.
just because I want to see it and because he deserves it or anything like that, but also because as we get further down the stretch, as we get into these games against Alabama in the college football playoff, if that is where Georgia is destined to be at the end of this year, the run game is going to be very important. If they can really keep the running game going at the rate that they have been over the past couple of weeks, this offense is just going to continue to grow. I want to see C.J. Allen stack another important, impressive performance this week. It's another big week for him at the position that he plays, but considering that Tennessee's run game, how important it is and how vital it is for them to keep the run game going. So let's see C.J. Allen eat. And then also, Tennessee has been great keeping Joe Milton clean, but they also they are susceptible a little bit to adding some pressure for him. So I want to see Georgia's edge rushers just absolutely get out after it, especially kind of expose those end-of-the-line blockers for Tennessee and just eat on Saturday.
Straight up eat. All right, I got a couple. I want to see some explosives. I talked about it. Not some. I want to see a lot of them. I talked about their defensive structure, how they play cover 3. They play a little bit of man. You're going to have to be like deadly explosive against the man coverage to get them out of it, or else you're just going to see a lot of man and a lot of pressure all night. It'll look very, very congested like it did against South Carolina. It'll look very congested like it did at times against Missouri. Okay, so if you're not able to capitalize on individual matchups on the outside Saturday, they're just going to keep sending cover 1 pressures, all right? They're going to stick a safety back in the middle of the field. They're going to load the box. They're going to play man coverage. Now, if you get them out of that, all right, if you explosive them to death, like I talked about earlier, you can stick them in zone coverage, and we already know what's going to happen at that point. Georgia's going to put up 550 yards of offense. They're going to be extremely efficient. They're probably not going to turn it over, and they're just going to walk the ball down the field every single time. Any zone football team this year, I promise you, Georgia is going to average multiple, like 9, 10 yards per play type drives against those types of football teams. Number 2, did you know that this Georgia football team has a turnover forced in every single game except one?
I think they're second in the nation for interceptions.
Do you know the football game that they didn't force a turnover in?
I'm gonna. Was it Auburn?
No, the Malachi Stark sealed the game.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right.
UAB.
Nope. Had 3 in that football game, actually.
Let me
Or
think.
2 in that football
Give
game.
me a hint.
Had 3 offensively. It's an SEC school.
South Carolina.
Nope.
No, they
can't
intercepted.
remember.
They
Intercepted
intercepted at the
Rattler.
last.
It's kind of shocking because it was one of their bigger wins of the year.
Kentucky.
Didn't force a turnover against Kentucky. They forced a turnover in 4 games in a row. They've had 6 turnovers forced in the last 4 football games. They've been able to get after it and force some teams into some tricky situations and some irresponsible ball security. Additionally, my last one here. Oh, we forgot to give you 3, didn't we?
It's okay.
That boy Jay will. Give him 3. My last one. I want to see Tyke Smith make some bread on Saturday, all right? He's been tremendous as a box extension player, all right? He's made a lot of TFLs. I think he leads the team in TFLs almost exclusively from screen game action. He's been elite coming downhill. But what I want to see this weekend, and I think, matter of fact, I know what the NFL wants to see from Tyke is whether he can turn and run and whether he can cover. All right, we would have had a really good look at this against Missouri. They chose to put Kamari Lassiter in the slot. Tyke ended up playing a lot in that football game, but not doing what he might have to do this weekend, which is run and cover. So I want to see that from Tyke just because I want to see Tyke prove to everybody else what we might have questions about in terms of his coverage ability. From a top-end, you're an elite NFL prospect, go prove it this weekend, not just in the run support ideals of defense. Go out there and cover some dudes. Now, he's done a tremendous job all year. This is a different test. This is a high-speed test for him, and that is an area of not necessarily weakness, but that's an area that's not necessarily his strength. All right. That is, give him 3. We talked about the run-pass splits yesterday, and if you weren't listening to us yesterday, I'm going to repeat the stat right now. For the first time in 9 years, Kirby Smart?
8 years.
8 years. The first time in 8 football seasons, the University of Georgia under Kirby Smart is throwing the football more often than they are running the football. Granted, it's almost a dead even 50-50 split. It's about 51-49. That being said, it's happened. It's happened for the first time in their career, or in Kirby Smart's career, I should say. And I asked him about this yesterday. He quickly deflected it, said that they had Nick Chubb and Sony Michel when he first got there, so of course they're going to run the football. But what he removed from the discussion was 5 or 6 or 7 years of evolution between 2017, when those two left the football program, 2018, 19, 20, okay, and then what's happened over the last 3 years of this football program, which is a complete revamping of how they go about throwing the football. They are a very, very pass-oriented football team this year. They're throwing it for, I think, 270 yards a game, and they're rushing for like 180, I believe is what the splits are right now. So they are averaging a really, really explosive passing attack, whereas the rushing attack's not necessarily been mediocre, but it's not been their strength. And, guys, that's something that is the antithesis of, quote-unquote, Georgia football. I can't remind you how many times Kirby Smart would come to the microphone and he would say, we need to get back to playing Georgia football, Georgia brand of football. And we all knew what that meant. That meant he was going to go into the next football game and run it 45 times. Those days are gone. Those days are gone, and I think we kind of brushed over it last night. I think it needs to be talked more about in this beat where we are at, that Kirby Smart is running a pass-oriented offense, and guess what? Up until today, to this day still, to this day, Kirby Smart gets anti-recruited and counter-recruited at the wide receiver position because they, quote, don't throw the football enough. Those things have to be dead now, right? So my question to you guys and my question to the chat is, at what point has this concerted effort start to yield results in the recruiting department at the wide receiver position? Because you've always recruited quarterbacks great. Todd Hartley's done a great job of recruiting wide receivers well. You do a great job under Dale McGee, or you have historically, last couple of years, been a little down at the running back position. Okay, quarterbacks have been 5-star after 5-star after 5-star. You've done everything and recruited exceptionally well at every position except for wide receiver. You would imagine it's got to start soon, right?
I think one thing that is telling of where Georgia's recruitment is heading in the wide receiver room department is you're getting into conversations and you're getting into top threes of elite wide receivers that you weren't getting into 4 years ago. And that's kind of where it starts. You know, at least you're getting into these conversations. You know, a guy like Jeremiah Smith, he had you were heavily considered as a landing spot for him. And you're in other, Ryan Wingo, you were in consideration for him. Some of these other top end guys. And I think that's just kind of where it starts is, okay, now they're seeing you. Your logo is being put on the table with them. They're talking about you. They're coming to visit you. They're thinking about coming to your school. So I think we're honestly maybe another recruiting cycle away from it happening.
I think you need a receiver to go in the first round is what's really going to jumpstart this recruiting cycle of, hey, elite receivers are coming to Georgia now. Because, yes, they are throwing the ball way more than they are. But the numbers aren't really representing that because it's so spread out. There's so many guys that are getting fed. Like, there's not a true wide receiver one that just eats like a Marvin Harrison or a Luther Burden on this team. And I think that's what you get counter-recruited on. And plus the fact that you haven't put a first-rounder in ever under Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
But I think
mean, George was close, but that's about it. And if George doesn't get hurt and if George isn't George, he's probably a first-round draft.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I mean, you had first-round talent, but when you have a coach on paper that says, hey, look, they haven't put a first-round receiver out.
Since
no
AJ Green.
No one's going to say, oh, yeah, wait a minute, George Pickens. So.
I think I did a stat on this a while back, and this was before the last couple of drafts. At one point, and it still is true, Georgia only had the last 20 years or whatever, the only first-round draft pick at the receiver position is A.J. Green. Mm-hmm. Alabama's had like 7 in the last 5 years or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at teams like Alabama and Ohio State where the guys are going and getting paid. Like I think that's what's going to really start.
I also think, and like we've talked about this at the running back position, this is an NIL position, right? The wide receiver position is one that's going to draw a heavy price tag because wide receivers directly impact the wins and losses on Saturday and how explosive your offense is. So we've been very upfront and honest with our Georgia audience about how Georgia doesn't necessarily play the NIL ball game like everybody else does.
Nope.
That's not what it's about at Georgia. You go to Georgia because you want to go to Georgia, not because the check is fat. And that might hurt you at some of these positions, some of these flashier historically positions because they are drawing a heavier paycheck. But I think statistically, you've done enough to where these types of counter recruiting tactics aren't available. Also, you say they haven't produced a first round draft pick. I'm with you. That's obvious. They did what they needed to do with George though in terms of development.
Absolutely.
And I would counter every single one of them, and I know they do. I would counter every single one of those recruiting tactics with, look what Ladd McConkey has done here. Look what this guy has done. He's going to become a third round, second round draft pick. I know the chat just said he's going to be a first rounder. That dude is not going to be a first round draft pick. I'm just going to let y'all know that. I love Ladd McConkey to death. All right. One of the first guys to ever evaluate him and put a camera on him. I don't think he's a first-round draft pick, all right? He doesn't have the physical attributes that first-round draft picks carry. That being said, he's going to play in the NFL for a long time, and he's going to be a top 90 selection whenever he does ultimately go to the NFL draft. But that would be my discussion. Like, hey, not only are we throwing it better, we're developing it as well or better than anybody else.
Yeah, you can definitely have that recruitment stand, but again, these kids are 17, 18 years old. When you put stat sheets in front of them and say, hey, look, Georgia's not putting out first-round receivers. They've never had a receiver go over 1,000 yards. So I think that's what's going to really hurt you. When you take that away, there's really nothing else you can say about it.
But to me, I don't know that really matters all that much, in my opinion. Because, like, I look at the quarterback position, and, like, Georgia, Jake Fromm, good quarterback, good college quarterback, was not a high-end draft pick. Jacob Eason went on to do different things. Under Kirby Smart, Georgia, up until they got a Carson Beck, and then they got a Brock Vandagriff, and then they got a Gunnar Stockton, and now you have a Dylan Raiola, and now you have a Ryan Puglisi. Like, Georgia didn't have to put up ungodly numbers at the quarterback position to recruit elite quarterbacks and get them in their program. I think it's more so of just a belief of the culture, and I know that that's already been installed and everything, and the national championships have come. That's why I think it's very close to happening.
I want to see them take a few more stabs at this position. They take gambles. They take gambles at linebacker. They take gambles at offensive tackle. I don't think they've taken a gamble at the quarterback position because that's not one that you do that at. But they've taken high-end ceiling projections. Jordan Davis is a prime example of this. They took a gamble on Jordan Davis. It paid off. They don't take a lot of gambles at the wide receiver position in terms of freaks. They do a lot of, oh, that guy's really fast. Let's see if we can make him into a really good football player type gambles. And to be honest with you, those really haven't paid off and to an extreme, right? We all know the examples of those, and they're not performing right now. So I want to see them take more gambles with, hey, like a prime example. I don't want to spoil anything. There's a kid from Grimsley right now. He's committed to NC State. That dude is 6'3", 190 pounds, and he runs like a deer. Okay? You should take a gamble on that. Okay? You should, just like you did on Tyler Williams last class. And I don't know if it's always going to pay off, all right? But you can't not take stabs at dudes that might turn into the Rashad Bateman kid from Minnesota. Those types of examples haunt this football program, and they should, because this state in particular puts out really, really good wide receiver weapons that go elsewhere and ball out. It's not like they don't have a litany of options here. I think they need to be a little bit more, willing to take some risk. Don't just take the in-state guy who's a top 300 player and is, 5'11", 180 pounds. Go find me the same version of Jordan Davis that you do and the defensive line for the offensive line or the wide receiver positions. You take height, weight, speed gambles everywhere else. I don't see them taking a bunch of those at the wide receiver position. A prime example, been a great guy. Jackson Meeks was a very good high school football player coming out of Phoenix City. They thought he was going to be potentially like a 50-50 physical guy. But that wasn't a bet on high-end traits. That was a bet on this guy might be a serviceable football player for us. And to their credit, they were right on that. But I think they need to take some more gambles at this position.
I like that take.
I agree.
All right. Let's take a quick look at Alabama. We got 5 minutes before we head over to our national hour. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. We got almost 500 people in here, and I don't see 500 thumbs ups. So let's make sure we get after that. We appreciate you guys. Quick look at Bama. I'm going to give it a rundown unless you guys got any quick initial thoughts.
I got some bare numbers.
You got bare numbers?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give you offensive defense. I've been telling you all year, I think this defense is really, really good. I think they're as good as any Alabama defense that I've studied in years past. I'm going to rattle off some names, and you Georgia fans listening, these should sound really, really familiar. Tim Keenan, Jahad Campbell, Caleb Downs, Terrion Arnold. All 5 of those football players four football players. All 4 of those were football players that Georgia was heavily, heavily invested in trying to land. And all 4 of those football players have turned into extremely good football players for Alabama. They are perhaps some of their better football players on this football team right now. Caleb Downs is growing into what we thought he was ultimately going to be. The reason I think C.J. Allen, and I tweeted about C.J. Allen putting it on tape better than any other freshman, is because Caleb has had some physical, shortcomings in this first season, as most freshmen do. C.J. Allen didn't have any of those. That's why we made the opinion that we made the other day on social media. That being said, Caleb Downs is playing exceptionally well. This Jahad Campbell kid, I don't know who he reminds me of. But good God, is he big, long, fast, and athletic? And he's just a redshirt freshman. And again, that was a guy at IMG Academy that Georgia wanted really, really badly that I believe committed to Clemson and then flipped to Alabama just before the end of National Signing Day. Terrion Arnold, a lot of people in the Georgia space remember him, the corner out of Florida that Georgia was heavily involved with, all the way down to basically his commitment announcement. He ultimately chose Alabama, just like Kool-Aid McKinstry, because he was essentially promised he was allowed to play basketball. Don't think that some bitch has dribbled a basketball in 3 years. So that's always good. Kids, if they promise you you're going to be able to play, they're lying to you. You should probably know that. You're not allowed to play 2 sports in college in the SEC. If you are, then you're probably not an elite athlete at either position, okay? You're probably just serviceable at both. But if you're great at something, they ain't letting you do 2 things. They're going to make you do the thing you're great at. And Terrion Arnold is damn good at covering wide receivers. And they are balling. They're absolutely balling out on the defensive side of the football and playing really, really fast and physical. And I believe, personally, and I don't know, this might be universal. Do you believe Alabama's got the best corner duo in the sport?
Yes.
Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold?
Duo, yeah.
I see you thinking.
I'm thinking either Clemson or
I was thinking Clemson's a good option, but the other starter I think is hurt.
Yeah.
Nate Wiggins is hurt as well. So Clemson's kind of taking a hit on this, but they did have 2 NFL guys. I don't think they had 2 first-rounders.
No,
which is what this is.
The more I think about it, it's Bama.
Yeah, I think it's Bama as well. So, yeah, I think they have the best corner duo in the country, and I think their linebackers play really well, and they've always got great defensive linemen. And I didn't even talk about Dallas Turner, who is always, playing jack and playing defensive end for Alabama and doing it well. They always have one of those guys that you got to worry about. And he plays physical. As you guys know, he almost broke someone's face a couple weeks ago against LSU. Offensively, I think J.C. Latham's a dude. Their right tackle, he be killing folks, like straight up killing folks. He is trying to take your life and your soul and then say something about your mama while you're on the ground. I do, however, see Jalen Walker running circles around Caden Proctor. Their left tackle, he is a true freshman. He was my number 1 tackle in the country coming out last year out of Iowa. Shouts out to the Hawkeye State. Couldn't keep this guy in state, though. You almost had him. He committed to Iowa and then flipped to Alabama. I would imagine large and due to the fact that he had a path to playing time at the University of Alabama as a true freshman, though I don't necessarily know if he loves what's going on right now because, again, he's getting spun like a top over there at left tackle. I see Jalen Walker, Damon Wilson, all the guys getting around him pretty quickly in a speed rush. I can already see it right now. They are big, all right, as an offensive line, and they want to be physical. There's a difference between being big and physical and being big and wanting to be physical. 65 is physical. He is always physical. The other 4 guys, touch and go. All right, very, very much so touch and go. The quarterback has been the biggest change on this offense, though, and you guys have known this, and you've watched this over the last couple of weeks. And I think the key to the fact that he is peaking is because he's being really, really decisive. As soon as he sees something, he does not second guess it. He just goes. And when you're the best athlete on the field in open space, which I believe he is, that's an extremely dangerous thing to have happen to you at the quarterback position when that guy's being that decisive. I do think, however, that when he goes to scramble, guys, he's running. Now, if you see him running laterally, you need to keep covering. All right, if he's extending plays, he's trying to throw the ball down the field. If he's going north to south, hit him now. Hit him right now. Pursue him right now. He's not going to throw the football. Haven't seen him step up into a pocket and rip a football. It's been a lot of, hey, we got outside the pocket, and now it's troublesome. If they must rush this guy pretty well, I think they should have some success.
So I've got a question then.
Yeah.
The consensus was that C.J. Allen starting provides an advantage against a guy like Jalen Milroe because C.J. Allen's a more horizontal player
Top end speed
than Pop. Yeah. Do you think, had Pop not even been injured, that he would have started in this game regardless?
That's a tough ask. I mean, that's a really, really tough ask because we've seen it for years and years and years. Kirby will always trust the old head. And so, but here's the thing. He was always playing. I mean, he was getting reps. I would say like 40% of the reps anyways. Yeah. So that just kind of tells you they were going to play him anyways. Now, has that rep share drastically increased now? Yeah, but I from what I heard from Holly Rowe, going back and listening to the broadcast the other day, they must have given her some type of tidbit because she said he's not going to be back until playoff time. So there's that. Now, we haven't heard that. All we got told, and by the way, I've been covering Georgia for 4 years. I said I've been an insider for the last 3. Would you say? I've actually been able to tell you what's going to happen for the last 3 years. This is as tight as that building's ever been with regards to injuries. I mean, so much so that Marvin Jones went 2 weeks with an ankle injury and nobody reported it. Yep. Nobody knew. That's absurd. And with this example right here, I just don't know where he's at in terms of health. But anyways, hey, we got a whole nother hour on NBR. You got anything else?
I'm chilling.
Just got the numbers. That's it.
Huh?
I can read the numbers real quick if you want me to.
Save them. We got a whole lot of Alabama preview, and we got a whole nother hour coming up on NBR.
Save that rat poison for later.
Yeah, save that rat poison. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way out.